We got a Holley, we've got an Edelbrock, and we've got our test mule here, the 1975 F250 with the 390 FE. In this video, we're going to be doing a little carburetor comparison, a shootout if you will, between the Holley 600 and the Edelbrock 600, and just kind of see which carburetor performs better. The performance attributes I'm most concerned with here are things like offline acceleration, overall manners, and I'm going to do a fuel economy test with these. Other than an aluminum intake, this 390 is a very stock style motor. It has a factory style camshaft. It has exhaust manifolds. It does have dual exhaust. But it's a mild mannered motor, just meant to haul heavy weight around. For a driveline, this truck has a C6 automatic transmission, and out back it's got 3.7 rear gears. To keep this comparison as apples to apples as I possibly can, both carburetors have been reset to factory calibration. Mechanical ignition timing on the motor here will be at factory spec for both carburetor tests. And for this test, we'll be using ported vacuum to control vacuum advance. The Edelbrock is the carb that's been on the truck since I bought the truck, so we're going to start off with it. So it's really going to be the baseline of the test comparison, as I have not yet tested the Holley on here. But I can say, there's no noticeable weak points with this setup. From off idle to high load situations, the carburetor performs very well. There's no noticeable flat spots or odd sort of drivability quirks. Here we can do a little acceleration test off a dead stop. Land speed records with this truck, but she gets out of her own way all right. As for fuel economy, I did do a fuel economy test. You can actually find it on YouTube, and I ended up getting over 11 miles to the gallon with it, which kind of surprised me. I didn't expect this truck to do as well as it did, which I know 11 doesn't sound good, but for this vehicle I actually thought it was pretty good. Something interesting that I noticed on the Edelbrock website for their advertisement of this carburetor is that it says it's calibrated for fuel economy, which makes me wonder if it's calibrated a little leaner than the Holley carburetor is. And it'll be interesting to see when I test the Holley how it does with the offline acceleration and the fuel economy. A stereotype you read often is that Edelbrock carburetors are more suitable for daily drivers, mild performance motors, work trucks, that type of a thing, and that Holleys are more suitable for high performance application. Now, I don't know if there's anything to that, but maybe this test will shed a little light on that. I do know this, the combination of the Edelbrock on the 390 and this F250 is a really nice combination. It really works out well. It's fairly economical for what this truck is, and it performs well. So we've got the Holley installed here, and just letting the truck idle away. It's running very smooth. So, driving along now with the Holley. So far it's doing alright. I am more of a Holley guy, just in terms of that's mostly what I've messed with, but I have to admit, out of the box, the Edelbrock kind of feels like it was working a little better on this engine. Now, these carburetors are infinitely tunable, but something interesting. Do a little acceleration test here. Okay, that was a kind of a bad launch. I'm gonna actually try one more acceleration test and see what we get. That second acceleration test was a bit better. Definitely felt a bit closer to what I'm kind of accustomed to with the Edelbrock carb. I'm gonna have to just kind of watch them back to back to see which one was quicker. So, now I think it's time to do a little fuel economy test with the Holley carb. You know, as I mentioned earlier in the video, I've done a couple with the Edelbrock, and both of them yielded between 11 and 11.5 miles to the gallon. So, curious what the Holley will do. Alright, just getting to the fuel station now. Gonna fuel this pig up and get this test started. Well, we got a full tank of gas. Don't mind that fuel gauge, it does not work. Odometer is sitting at 28,375 miles and 3/10. So I'll get this thing started. I think it's going to be about a 40-minute, or not, yeah, about a 40-mile loop. Something that's been brought up in other videos where I've done fuel economy tests is whether or not I've verified the odometer functioning properly, and I have verified that the odometer functions properly and is accurate. Original radio still works perfectly. I like my old bike, easy aluminum free dry spray to keep that 24/7 light. Running through town now. This loop is roughly 60% country highway, and then the other 40% of the loop is a little in-town scenario. About 21 miles, so roughly halfway through the loop. Back at the fuel station here, and did just under 40 miles, so it'll be interesting to see how much fuel this truck used. Well, looking like about 3¼ gallons to go a shade under 40 miles. So on that loop, I drove 39.1 miles. The truck consumed approximately 3¼ gallons of fuel, which equals 12 miles to the gallon. So with the Edelbrock carb, I've done 2 fuel economy tests. One of them I actually posted on YouTube, and then the other was basically the loop that I just drove with the Holley carb. And funny enough, both of them did about the same. And I say funny enough because on the trip, the MPG loop I did that I posted on YouTube, I was actually hauling a fair bit of weight with it. So it surprised me that the kind of unloaded test loop was nearly the same. But this test with the Holley carb actually was a little better than both tests I did with the Edelbrock. So kind of interesting. After watching both acceleration tests back to back, the Edelbrock was definitely a shade quicker than the Holley, which kind of surprised me, have to admit. But then what was equally surprising to me was that the Holley outperformed the Edelbrock on the fuel economy test. Both Holley and Edelbrock carburetors are infinitely tunable. I wanted to compare the two carburetors just out of the box because I think for a good percentage of people out there that buy carburetors for a motor, they just, you know, buy it, put it on their motor, and run it. And for the majority of applications, an out-of-the-box carburetor is going to work just fine. But with that said, both of these carburetors could be fine-tuned to run a lot crisper and get better fuel economy and have better acceleration than they are out of the box. Now, I'm definitely curious if people were, you know, as surprised as I was with the results. I think that's going to do it for this one. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you on the next one.